The last ride. I've driven these lonely roads for years, but nothing could have prepared me for last night. My name's Bob, a part-time cab driver in the small town of Black Hollow, where the nights are long and the shadows seem to breathe. I've dealt with drunks, weirdos, and the occasional creep, but what happened last night wasn't just strange. It was a descent into hell. It was just past midnight, the witching hour when the world feels like it's holding its breath. The roads were deserted, swallowed by a darkness so thick it pressed against the car windows. A fog had rolled in, curling through the pines like ghostly fingers. My cab's headlights barely cut through it, and the radio spat nothing but static. I was cruising the outskirts of town, hoping for a fare to break the monotony, when I saw him, a man standing by the roadside, his silhouette sharp against the mist. He raised a hand, slow and deliberate, like he'd been waiting for me. He looked ordinary enough, tall, lean, dressed in a long black coat and a wide-brimmed hat that hid his face in shadow. I pulled over, the gravel crunching under my tires, and rolled down the window. "Where to?" He slid into the back seat without a word, the door creaking shut. The air grew colder, heavier, like I'd opened the car to a crypt. "Just drive," he said, his voice low and hollow, like it came from somewhere deep inside him. "I'll tell you when to stop." Something about him made my skin crawl. Maybe the way he sat, too still, or the faint smell of damp earth that clung to him. But a fare's a fare. So I started the meter and pulled back onto the road. The meter ticked softly, the only sound besides the hum of the engine and the occasional crackle of static from the radio. We drove through Black Hollow's outskirts, past abandoned barns and skeletal trees that clawed at the sky. The fog thickened, swallowing the road ahead. He didn't speak, just stared out the window, his eyes, barely visible under the hat, glinting like polished obsidian. I tried to make small talk, anything to break the silence. "Rough night, huh? You from around here?" He didn't answer. Instead, he leaned forward slightly, his breath cold against the back of my neck. "Keep driving," he whispered. "Don't look back." My grip tightened on the steering wheel. I glanced at the rearview mirror, but his hat obscured his face, leaving only the faint curve of a smile. Too wide, too sharp. The radio hissed louder, spitting garbled words. "Not alone. It's watching." I switched it off, my heart thudding. Just static, I told myself. Just my nerves. We drove for nearly an hour, deeper into the wilderness where the road narrowed and the trees closed in. The fog was a living thing now, coiling around the car, blotting out the stars. My headlights caught glimpses of strange shapes in the mist, twisted branches, or maybe something else. I swore I saw eyes, glowing faintly, blinking out of sight when I looked too long. Finally, he spoke. "Stop here." I slammed on the brakes, my palms sweaty. We were nowhere, miles from town, surrounded by dense woods that seemed to pulse with malice. No houses, no lights, just an endless sea of gnarled trees and shadows that moved when they shouldn't. "You sure?" I asked, my voice cracking. "There's nothing out here." "This is the place," he said, his tone flat, but laced with something darker. Anticipation, maybe, or dread. He reached into his coat and pulled out a crumpled $100 bill, its edges stained with something dark and sticky. "Keep the change." The meter read $32.50. I took the bill, my fingers brushing his. They were ice cold, almost slimy. "Thanks," I muttered, pocketing it. He stepped out, his boots sinking into the muddy ground, and walked toward the woods without a backward glance. The fog swallowed him whole, his silhouette fading like a ghost. I was about to turn the car around when a scream tore through the night, sharp, guttural, like someone's soul was being ripped apart. It was him. My blood ran cold. The sound wasn't just pain, it was terror, pure and primal. I froze, my hands locked on the wheel as another scream followed, closer, desperate. Help me, oh God, help me. I glanced at the side mirror and saw him running back toward the car, his coat torn, his face a mask of blood and panic. His hat was gone, revealing eyes wide with horror and a gash across his cheek that oozed black. In his hand, he clutched a knife, its blade slick with something that wasn't blood, something thicker, darker. "Let me in," he screamed, pounding on the door. "It's coming, please." I reached for the lock, my instincts screaming to help, but then I saw it, behind him, charging through the fog. It was massive, easily 8 feet tall, its body a grotesque mockery of flesh and shadow. Its limbs were too long, bending at wrong angles, tipped with claws that glinted like obsidian. Its face, if you could call it that, was a writhing mass of tendrils with glowing red eyes that burned through the mist. It moved with a sickening grace, its steps silent but impossibly fast. My foot slammed on the gas, the car lurching forward. I didn't think, I just drove. The man's screams chased me, his fists hammering the trunk as he ran. "Don't leave me, it's here." But the thing was faster. It caught him in a heartbeat, its claws sinking into his back. He let out a final bone-chilling scream as it dragged him into the woods, his knife clattering to the ground. The fog closed in, and the silence that followed was worse than the screams. I didn't stop driving until I hit Black Hollow's main street, the neon glow of a 24-hour diner snapping me out of my trance. I pulled over, my body shaking so hard I could barely open the door. The $100 bill was still in my pocket, its weight like a curse. I stumbled into the diner, collapsing into a booth. The waitress, a kind-eyed woman named Maggie, who'd served me coffee 100 times, took one look at me and poured a mug without asking. "You okay, Bob?" she asked, her voice soft but worried. "You look like you've seen a ghost." I couldn't speak. My mind replayed the man's screams, the creature's eyes, the way the fog seemed to watch me. I pulled out the bill to pay for the coffee, and Maggie's face went pale. "Where'd you get that?" she whispered. "Some guy. A fare," I stammered. "Why?" She leaned in, her voice barely audible. "That's not money, Bob. Look at it." I held the bill up to the light. It wasn't paper. It was thin, leathery, almost alive. The ink shimmered, forming symbols I couldn't read, and the face of Benjamin Franklin twisted into something else. A grinning skull with glowing red eyes. I dropped it, my stomach churning. Maggie grabbed it with a napkin and shoved it into a jar, muttering something about cursed things. "Those woods," she said, her eyes darting to the window. "They're not right. People go in, but they don't come out. Not the same anyway." I spent the night in the diner, too terrified to go home. At dawn, I drove to the police station and told them everything. The sheriff, an old skeptic named Hargrove, listened with a frown. "You sure you didn't just see a bear, Bob?" Fog plays tricks on the mind. "It wasn't a bear," I snapped. "It was something else." He promised to check the woods but warned me to stay away. I didn't need convincing. I quit driving that day, sold my cab, and swore I'd never work nights again. But the story doesn't end there. A week later, Hargrove called. They'd found something in the woods, a knife, rusted and caked in black ichor, but no body, no blood, no sign of the man. "Weird thing," he said. "The knife had your name carved into the handle." You sure you've never been out there?" My blood ran cold. I hadn't told him about the knife, and I'd never set foot in those woods. That night, I burned the clothes I'd worn during the fair, hoping to rid myself of whatever clung to me. But as I stood by the fire, I heard it, a faint, guttural whisper from the shadows. "You can't escape." I spun around, but nothing was there. Just the darkness, watching. I don't sleep much anymore. The whispers follow me, growing louder when the fog rolls in. Sometimes I see those red eyes in my dreams, or in the reflection of my window. Whatever was in those woods, it knows me now. It's waiting, and I'm terrified that one night it'll come to collect, share your nightmares. Have you ever experienced something you couldn't explain? A moment that made you question reality itself? Share your story in the comments below. And if you dare to face more tales of terror, subscribe for the next chapter of horror.